This TBR is extremely ambitious and probably not going to be completed. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Colleen Delaney, author, librarian, and lover of books. Today we are going to go through my extremely overwhelming October TBR because I just couldn't stop adding books to it. Even after I thought it was too overwhelming, I added one more book. So we'll see what I read, but let's get down to it. It's October, so it's got to be a little bit spooky. My Halloween decorations are up, as you can tell. I love October like most people do because it's a wonderful month of the year. Let's see what I've got for you. So the first book I'm going to talk about, actually, I don't have a hard copy of. I got an advanced reader copy from NetGalley. It's called The Wildseed Witch by Marty Dumas. It's a middle grade book. I'll pop the cover up right there for you. It's a middle grade book that sounds kind of like a middle grade version of, what's that show called? American Horror Story, the season they did Coven. Now, I've talked about it in other videos, but I'm really scared of everything, so I can't watch shows like American Horror Story. But because I love witches so much, I did watch 2 episodes of Coven before I had to stop because it was too scary. So basically, our main character is named Hassani, and she has an emotional outburst, and it sparks her latent magic. And after that happens, she gets sent to a finishing school for like special young girls, which is what reminded me of the American Horror Story Coven. It's set in New Orleans, which I love New Orleans. I love books set there. I love visiting there. It's such a cool American city that really doesn't feel like any other American city. The name of the school she goes to is Les Belles Demoiselles, which I took French once upon a time, and I just think that sounds so beautiful and fun. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. I loved all the flowers in it. I think it's going to be a really good read. So I'll let you know how I like that one. The Wildseed Witch is going to come out on May 10th. All right, so my second witch book out of 3 this month is Everyone Knows Your Mother is a Witch by Rivka Galchen, I think is how you say her name. I actually bought this book in July when I went and treated myself to an afternoon alone in a bookstore, which I recommend everybody do. It was lovely. And I started it once. I mean, this is going to be a little bit of a story time. So when I was in college, I minored in history, and I took a class called Women in Witchcraft, which was about the witch trials in Europe, and we did a little bit of the witch trials in America, but we really focused on the witch trials in Europe and all the torture and forced confessions and all that stuff. Now, I enjoyed the class a lot. This book, upon reading the first few chapters, or first few pages really, feels a lot like the stuff I read for that class. So it reads like a primary source of a trial of a woman accused of witchcraft. When I grabbed it, I just thought the cover was pretty, and I had planned on buying myself like 5 to 10 books, and when I got to the bookstore, a lot of the books I wanted weren't in. So I just sort of was like, I'm gonna buy a bunch of books that I want that look cool. So I grabbed this one. I don't know how enjoyable reading it is gonna be because of the way it's written, but it might be. Big chunks of it are in interview form. It's also follows a trial. So I assume it's gonna be pretty dark because it follows a witch trial. It takes place in 1618, and it's in like Germany basically, but not Germany because it's 1618. Let's see, it's in Württemberg. It's after the 30 Years' War, the plague is spreading, and there's a lot of fear and suspicion, which is basically how all witch trials start. The main character is Katerina. She's a widow, and she has a knowledge of herbal remedies, and that's where it starts. I'll let you know what I think. I have a feeling it's gonna be like a 3-star read, but maybe it'll surprise me, and maybe I'll absolutely love it. Okay, so my next witch book, I've actually wanted to read this for I think about a year, but kept putting it off and putting it off. And now that I actually bought it, I have a feeling that in my TBRs and what I read this month for the next couple months, you're probably gonna be getting the rest of this series. And the book is Wolf Gone Wild by Juliette Cross. First of all, I love this cover. I'm not a huge illustrated romance cover person. Like the ones that look a little bit YA-ish, I don't like, but I really like this one with the no people illustrations, especially because it's about a witch with the moon and the vials and the herbs, and then you've got the wolves up there. I think it looks really cool. So this is a romance between a werewolf and a witch. The werewolf is Mateo. He can't shift. He needs into his wolf form. He needs a witch to help him. The witch is Evie, and it's a romance, so I'm gonna assume they fall in love. There's gonna be some paranormal fun. This one also takes place in New Orleans, so that'll be my second witch book taking place in New Orleans this month. I ordered this and it came probably like 5 days ago, and it's been so hard for me not to read it, but I really wanted to read it for my October reads because it's about a witch, and you'll see throughout the months, I read a lot of witch books all year round. It's not really just an October thing for me. But I wanted to save this one for October. So I did, and I'm probably gonna start it in 3 days, which is October 1st. Next is a book I got from the library, and there's been so much talk about it, and I've been hemming and hawing on whether or not to buy it. Every time I go to Target, I see it, and just been going back and forth, and it was finally in at the library, so I grabbed it at the library, and that is The Maidens. This is a lot of glare, by Alex. I have no idea how to say this man's last name. Michaelides, something like that. But obviously tons of people have been talking about this and his other book, Silent Patient, which I have not read yet. This sounds like more my cup of tea. We've got a dark academia. It's set at Cambridge. There's a murder. There sounds like there's some obsession. There's a lot about the rites of Persephone, which I'm a big Greek mythology kid, so that sounds like something I would love. So I don't think any other mysteries on my TBR this month, so this will be a good mystery for October. Nice and spooky. All right, I have another library book, which if you watched my library haul video, my last one, and then my What I Read in September will be coming out in a couple days, you know that I've recently started reading the Wayward Children series by Qian and McGuire, and I loved Every Heart a Doorway, the first one, so I had to get the second one, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, which seemed perfect for October because this book follows Jack and Jill, who are twins we meet in the first book, and what happens to them. It's a prequel, so it's about their time in their portal world. Jack and Jill, if you remember from the first one or if you haven't read it, went to a very, very dark world that sounds a little bit like a mix between Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Bram Stoker's Dracula. So it's definitely gothic vibes. It's definitely like weird science vibes, but I'm very excited to read it. These books are very short. I will probably, this one's like 185 pages. I will probably pick a day, in like a weekend day where I don't have much going on, and get cozy and sit in the backyard and just fall into this world, and I can't wait. I'm so excited to read this entire story, this entire series, and it really worked out that this one is the one I'm reading in October and not one where we go to like a world that's all rainbows and sunshine. We go someplace nice and dark. Right now, this book I actually already started reading. The book I'm reading right now for my September reads, I'm not super into. I am trying to finish it, but I needed to read something else yesterday because I just wasn't really feeling it. And this book is nice and long, and I knew there was no chance I'd finish it before October, so it would end up being an October read. And that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This book has been on so many lists, and I put it on my wish list a while ago, probably like 6 months ago. It's got a gorgeous cover, but I didn't know much about it other than it's a sci-fi that feels sort of fantasy-ish. So I grabbed it. I read the first 50 pages, and this book is amazing. The world building already is insane. The amount of effort and detail put into these religions, these people, the world, it's fantastic. I'm going to read you the first line of this book because I really liked it. Also, the only bad thing about getting this book from the library is there's maps and you can't look at them because they tape the cover down. So, and I love good map, but I can look it up online and I'll be fine. So here's the first line. Let me find it. So there is some like pre-first line material that I would recommend reading that are really cool quotes from the religious books that Rebecca Roanhorse, I assume, wrote herself. today he would become a god. I love it. This book's a little gruesome so far, so if you are a queasy person, you might not want to read it. There is some mutilation and there's some very dark magic type stuff, but I have a feeling I'm just gonna love this book. My next book on my TBR I don't have a copy of because I got an advanced reader from NetGalley. It is The Rake Gets Ravished by Sophie Jordan. There's the cover. I read the first book in this series, which was called The Dew Goes Down, and I really liked it. Sophie Jordan's books, for me, are very comforting reads. Like, they're not super angsty. They're a good romance, but the conflict usually isn't too terrible. They're kind of relaxing reads. If you're looking for a romance that's not going to upset you in any way, shape, or form, Sophie Jordan's a good read for that. So the premise of The Rake Gets Ravished is that we have Silas, who's a gaming den owner, which is a popular thing in historical romances that take place in the Regency, and he has just won the deed to a house. And Mercy is the daughter of the man who lost the deed to the house. Now, she decides to break into the gaming hall and into Silas's personal rooms to try to find the deed so she can steal it, and then they'll still have their house. So when she does that, Silas catches her, and she makes a snap decision that she couldn't either get out of there without the deed and, you know, her family is sort of screwed, or she can seduce Silas and steal the deed and disappear before morning, which is what she decides to do. Now, the book is going to be about mostly after that, how her life feels really boring after having kind of an exciting night, and about how Silas is sort of obsessed with her and would do anything to find her. I'm excited to read it. It's going to be a nice read. I really always enjoy Sophie Jordan's books. They're never too heavy. They're never sad. They're just good historical romances that are fun. Since this TBR is already so long, because that alone is quite a few books for me to read in a solitary month, I have 3 books that are on my maybe TBR list, which means I'd like to get to them, and if I do read all these books, then I'll turn to these. The first one I will probably read because I got it from the library, and that is When the Sea Turned to Silver by Grace Lin. I wasn't supposed to get this at the library. I went to the library because I had a lot of books on hold for myself, and I was not supposed to get any other ones. I was in the children's department getting a ton of picture books for my kids, and I decided to wander in the middle grade section to see if there was anything I wanted to get for my oldest, even though he had said all he wanted was books on sharks, so I got him books on sharks, and saw this. Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lin is probably my favorite middle grade I've ever read. Starry River of the Sky is the second one in the series, and this is the third one. I had never read it. It came out in, 2016. So in 2016, I had a 2-year-old and a brand new baby. So I wasn't really reading a ton that wasn't on my Kindle and reading in the middle of the night. And these books I would recommend don't get e-readers for, because they have the most, unless your e-reader is in color, I would get the hardcover book because they have the most beautiful illustrations in them. And even the chapter headings are gorgeous. So one of my 3-year-olds actually asked me yesterday if I could read a little bit to her, so I read the first chapter, and she's just such a magical, beautiful writer. I can't imagine I'm not gonna actually read this book in October. If I don't, I'll definitely renew it and read it in November, because I got the lock off my library account off because I returned my book that was 2 years overdue. So that's When the Sea Turned to Silver by Grace Lin. All right, my next maybe is Northanger, Abbey by Jane Austen. I own this book, so it's not as imperative that I get it read this month. It will be my last of Jane Austen's 6 main books that I will read. I don't know why I waited so long to read Northanger Abbey. I really like the PBS miniseries. I think it's also BBC, but it was on PBS in America. That came out probably in like 2006 or 7. I just have never read Northanger Abbey, probably because, okay, another story time. My love of Jane Austen was transferred to me by my mother, who used to watch the 6-hour or 5-hour BBC Pride and Prejudice constantly when I was younger. And when I was about 14 and however old that made my mom, we both went through a phase of insomnia for a few months, and we used to just watch that movie at night all the time until we could fall asleep. This is my mom's least favorite Jane Austen book, which is probably why I've read it last. I can't imagine I'm going to dislike this as much as I dislike Mansfield Park, which I read, oh my gosh, in like 2013. And then I didn't read another Jane Austen until this year when I read Persuasion because I was so off-put by it. So Northanger Abbey, it's all like the Gothic vibes too. So it's a good, October, November read. I probably won't read it in November if I don't get to it. I'll probably wait until January since I like reading spooky-ish stuff in January also. My last October TBR is Beautiful Country by Qian Julie Wang. Now I got this for Book of the Month last month. I also got myself Arsenic and Adobo, which was one of the backlist books, which I did read in September. I really wanted to read this book, but I know it's going to be a heavy and probably sad book because it is an immigration story, and I can't imagine it's going to be light. It's about a family that moves to New York from China in 1994, and they're technically illegal immigrants, and what it feels like to live through that. I do really want to read this story because I think it'll be beautiful, and I read the first page because you can do that on Book of the Month. It'll let you read like a little bit to see whether or not you like the writing style, and it again has a very good first line, which I'll read to you. My story starts decades before my birth. When I read that, I was like, I gotta get this one. I will definitely read this book at some point. I don't know if it's gonna be in October. I don't know if I'll wait until, I don't read a lot in November because I do NaNoWriMo, which I'll talk about in a different video. But I will definitely get to this book at some point, and I'm sure I will enjoy it. Okay, so that is my ambitious October TBR. And I also haven't even ordered my October Book of the Month yet. And I got a free credit because my cousin used my code to sign up. So I'm probably getting 2 more new books this month, and we'll see. Depending on what they are, I might bump something on this list to read 1 or 2 of those. That's always the fun thing about doing Book of the Month. You don't know if it's gonna be something you absolutely adore and have to read right now. We'll see how many books I actually read. Is your October TBR out of control also? I feel like all the booktube channels I watch, everyone's got like 15 books on their October TBR. Probably because we're all finally like getting cozy inside and not feeling forced to be outside because the sun's out. It's gonna be, start getting gloomy and start getting dark real early here. Are any of my books on your October TBR? Have you read any of them before? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I have 1 to 2 videos coming out every week about books and writing. I hope you are having a lovely fall day wherever you are, whether it be crisp and cool and 60 degrees and windy, or whether you live someplace where it's still 90 degrees and humid. Get yourself a slice of pumpkin bread, and if you're a pumpkin spice latte person, grab one of those and enjoy. See you in my next video.